Well, today we are talking about pokeweed. Yes, we are. Recently, I've been getting a lot of questions about how to process it, how does it hold up, is it okay to use, all of these things. And so stay tuned, we are going to cover this right now. Pokeweed, which is also known as Phytolacca americana, that's the big $10 word, is one of these plants that I've seen growing from West Coast to East Coast. And it is truly considered a weed, even though in some areas of the country, it is edible. They cook it, they cook the foliage, and they have something called poke salads, kind of like cooking turnips or something like that. But anyway, not that I've had it. But it is considered poisonous, so you do want to be careful about how you handle it. But it's perfectly safe to handle with hands and all of that, so not an issue. The second thing I need to make sure I tell you is that in fact, I think I have one right here. Yeah, here's a good one right here. When you're cutting it, I recommend going ahead and if the berries are black or that black blue, or even if they've begun to turn, go ahead and prune them off. And this is about as far of a ripening stage as you probably want to get. You can see the berries are green. Maybe if I back up just a little bit, the berries are green, but that stem is real hot pink. Here's a stem that's still blooming. You see how the stem where the berries are on, it's still green, which means it's a long way from being ripe. But at some point you can harvest this and use it, and the berries will continue to ripen. And why do you not want ripe berries? Well, they stain everything and anything. Your clippers, your clothes, your tablecloths, your bride. You don't want to use those berries because they're just way too messy and they stain everything. So as long as they're green, you're good to go. Now, the big tip that I learned a long time ago is the time of day to prune this. I always try to prune late in the day. So 4 o'clock on, I try to never prune it early. And it doesn't matter if it's in full sun or shade or whatever, but it just seems to be that time of day is when all the juices are flowing the right direction, that the plant really holds up better. Now this pokeweed, it's Saturday morning, and I cut this on Wednesday evening, and it's been in my hot garage just in a bucket, and it looks great, and you can't even tell. It looks like I just cut it. And so that's one of the first tips, late in the day, and then I put it straight into water and I let it drink overnight. And if there's any potential issue, you usually see it right away. But I would say that I've been cutting this for, well, longer than there's been cell phones. And usually you know right away if there's going to be an issue. But when I cut late in the day, I never really have an issue. And I put it into cold water and voila. So I started pruning or cutting up some of these branches to just put some in a vase. So that way you can see all the uses for this incredible plant. Now, I usually forage this. I have had it grow on my property, which is always just a great thing. But first, you can see, you can use this stem big. If you're doing a no foam a design, loves it. If you're even using foam because you have to in a situation, it doesn't mind it. So I want to show you, you can see this has got some great branching on it. But we don't need this huge stem. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut these side branches off into usable stems. And so now I've got shorter, more usable stems. Now I want to show you this technique. Now a lot of people, with some things you can just pull leaves off, not a big deal. I don't do that with pokeweed though, because when you pull it off, let me see if I can show you really good. You see how that's begun to tear? I don't know if you can see that if I put it against my shirt. You see where it's like literally pulling a strip down the entire stem. Here, let me try another one. It almost always does this. And I feel like when that stem has that huge raw spot on it, I don't think it drinks as well. So a stem like that, I probably wouldn't use. So what I do instead, and it's a little more time consuming, but it's not bad, and you kind of get into a rhythm of it after a while, is I use clippers and I go in and I cut all of these nodes of foliage off that we don't need. Now this stem here we could cut, but we might want that stem. Or maybe these berries are too heavy for what we're doing down low, so you could cut those off. But look, you've got this beautiful white bloom with the light green berries, and it's good to go. So I'm gonna clean that up. And you can use all the way, typically, let me back up a second. When you see buds like this, these really tiny little tight buds, you see that leaf, there we go, maybe that better. Those, I probably would not use those, use that tip by itself because it's probably too tender. However, I have another one I will show you that you could use. Now, one of the problems with foraging is, like for example, I just found a little critter there. Well, it's gone now. But I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna cut this all off. All these lower leaves, don't need them. Here's this big chunk of berries. Now, if we were doing a big design, that berry wouldn't bother me at all. I'm gonna go ahead and trim a little more, and there. And it gives you good motion. It gives you a lot of good movement. And it looks, the curves are always so natural. I know many years ago when I first started harvesting pokeweed, I had it in our cooler to sell, and we had a designer from England come in, and she was so excited. She was like, oh my gosh, we use this all the time. Of course, they have some different varieties over there, but she says, we use this all the time, and we love it. Never seen it in America before. So this has been used as a cut flower, or berry or fruit, however you want to use it, for quite a long time. This is not something new. It's just, I feel like sometimes we don't like to use things, especially if they're on the side of the road or something like that, because number one, people might look down on us for using this foraged product, but I feel like it adds so much to any design. So I'm just cutting away, editing this foliage. I don't need foliage in the water. And I am putting that in. And the nice thing is if you even use it low, and then the berries kind of cascade over the side, it's great. So I'm just coming in and cutting these leaves off. Don't need them, they're under the water. But look at that stem. Isn't that awesome? Now here is a good example. You can see this white flower is got, let me see if I can get it close enough, put it against my black shirt here. You see it has little green berries already down inside those petals. That's great to use. You could go ahead and use that in something small, like a corsage or something. It does hold up really well. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So again, look at the stem. Now, okay, this one broke, which happens sometimes because they're so branchy, they just kind of intermingle, and you go to pull them apart, and sometimes a challenge. Now, just like fruit, you could take a really strong stem like this, and you could wire it, like tape it, maybe to a pick or something, and put it into a design. Because this doesn't need water at this point. Just like fruit, it's gonna keep doing its thing. You don't wanna use it though in anything that's gonna be like longer than probably 7 days, because you can see how pink that stem is. Those berries are gonna start ripening, and you would hate for them to start getting really messy. Like one of your clients maybe goes to throw the flowers away eventually, and the berries are ripe, and they grab hold of them, and oh, it gets really messy quick. But that is perfectly to use. Doesn't even need a water source. Here we go. So we can use pokeweed, pokeberry, poke salad, all kinds of names. But It is a great filler with texture, fruit, and color.